Chapter 9. The Bharavath, Smile of the Av. The bath did hit the spot. Upon steeping herself in the hot brimming water, Lafier could feel her fatigue roll away as surely as all her sweat. The weariness in her heart, however, proved harder to wash away. Part of the reason lay in her attendant. She couldn't fathom why, but that Selnai woman had entered the lavatory with her, offering to wait on her by washing her hair, scrubbing her back, and all manner of other things. That must have been her mistaken picture of the imperial family lifestyle. In truth, apart from her early infancy, Lafier had never had others cleanse her. She was quite satisfied bathing the way she was used to, in water infused with saudier, liquid soap, after which she'd simply get dry using a bimukia, drying machine. And yet, Selnai refused to believe her no matter how many times she insisted. "I implore you, please don't be so hesitant." Hesitant? Did she honestly believe an imperial would ever be so inhibited? Lafier eventually grew weary of raising objection and decided to just make Selnai happy. Hence, Selnai was still on standby next to her tub, with a fluffy white gusath bathrobe at the ready. "I trust you've been made aware of the enemy fleet heading toward the Svagov Marquisate?" asked Lafier. "Yes." "And you aren't frightened?" "No, I'm not. I'm certain my lord will do something." "The Baron? What will he do?" "That I do not know." The Baron must have some trust placed in him." "But of course. He's a trustworthy man," replied Selnai emphatically. "I would not be here today had it not been for him." "What do you mean?" "It was my dream, as a child, to become naturalized as an imperial citizen. But I didn't like the idea of entering military service, and I lacked the skills to be a good servant." "If it had been your childhood dream," said Lafier, "then surely you could have spent your formative years receiving an education. On my home planet, the Druohainu Freezer, Count Om of Freezer, women have little status. They don't have access to the higher education that would allow them to become servants. Women aren't expected to become anything besides good wives or mothers. Before I learned of life on other worlds, I had believed that was the case for all terrestrial worlds." "Is that true?" "Yes. My lord picked me up from that world and provided an education for me." "An education? How much of an education was needed to learn how to scrub people's backs?" "Yes. I'm in charge of checking and maintaining the antimatter fuel tanks." "That's what I'm studying." So you aren't a lavatory specialist?" "Correct. This is my first time working lavatory duties, since my lord has never tasked me with it." "So the other servants do wash the Baron's back and such?" "Yes." Lafier concluded that the dear Baron had a screw loose. It wasn't exactly rare for the lord of a territory to order their servants to take care of their everyday necessities, but that usually only went as far as batiye, waitstaff, fixing their meals. Having them minister to him even in the lavatory was a step too far. "I can tell you," Selnai continued, "he is a kind and gracious lord." "Kind doesn't mean competent," said Lafier uncharitably. "What can I do?" she replied dreamily, "except have faith in my lord." "How many people live in the Star Fief?" asked Lafier, changing the subject. "Only 50. Though I haven't ever counted the exact number." "If you're interested." "No, that's fine," Lafier cut in. "How many are of?" "Two are of, my lord and his father. His younger sister has been living in Lokfakar for a long time." Life here sounds a tad, well, lonely. It's undeniable that there isn't much by way of thrills. Yet we live exceedingly comfortably, so I can't say I'm particularly sorry for that fact. "Thrills, so I'm providing some much-needed stimulation to this estate, am I?" "Heavens, no." She was shocked, as though literally bolt-stricken. "Attending to Filartner is the highest honor." "I do not think so lowly of you. I'd feel safer if you did value me more as a fresh thrill." Further, she had tired of her hot bath. "I'll become a prune if I stay any longer." She stood up out of her tub. "You're so beautiful," Selnai sighed, spellbound by her perfectly symmetrical frame and smooth skin. Lafier ignored her jejune praises. Her near-perfect figure was the fruit of genetic engineering and the aesthetic discernment of her ancestors, not of any effort on her part. Complimenting her beauty did little to ingratiate her. Selnai dressed the royal princess with the bathrobe, which absorbed the water droplets on her skin. When she exited the lavatory, she encountered a lady servant older than Selnai waiting with a heap of bathrobes and duhu, bath towel, piled high in her arms. Leifir was fed up. Is there no drying machine anywhere in the estate? Our lord is of the opinion that that machine is uncivilized, responded the older servant, who wrapped Leifir's wet bluish-black hair with a towel. Meanwhile, Selnai replaced her sodden bathrobe with a new one. If she had to be waited on by others like this, she might as well enjoy it. There was no denying it felt good. I wonder whether Jinto is receiving the same generous pampering I am, Leifir found herself thinking. By lady servants. Because if so, then. She didn't know why, but the idea was very disagreeable. When all the moisture was wiped from her body and hair, Leifir would be subjected to yet another ordeal. She saw the change of dress they'd arranged for her and scowled. What happened to my uniform? She thought it imprudent to criticize the choice of underwear, but she could take issue with what she was to wear over them. Dyed a vivid yellow and studded everywhere with jewels such as dew, rubies, laudacreer, diamonds, and dsem, cat's eyes, it was a gaudy dish, long robe. The jumpsuit to be worn underneath, it was a tasteful light green in color and clearly high value. It wouldn't be inappropriate garb for strolling through a palace, let alone here. We are running it through the laundry, replied the servant. Not by hand, I hope, she quipped. They had had more than enough time to wash her uniform while she was in the bath. Our lord said wearing the uniform to the dinner table would be barbarous. Barbarous. She was not bothered by somebody viewing her uniform that way. Everyone had their own values, after all. But the man had some nerve to push his personal opinions on others. Leifir had absolutely no desire to dress up like some doll. This was not a playdate with the Baron. I will only wear my uniform, she declared. I will wait here until it's finished drying. The older servant scrunched her face, on the verge of tears. But, Your Highness. Fie Lartner, please, entreated Selnai. Once again, she seemed ready to rub her head against the floor. Leifir's pity for them only grew, and she cursed the stupidity of the whole situation. Fine, Leifir gave in. Then I will wear the douche over my uniform. That should be acceptable. The two servants locked eyes. But the orders of Far Lanu, my honored one, they. We can't disobey Her Highness the Royal Princess either. Their whispering made it to her ears, however much she didn't wish to hear. So much commotion over nothing. The thought didn't cross Leifir's mind that perhaps she was being too stubborn about her uniform. Instead, she gazed at the Baron's maids, her eyes thoroughly unamused. Was this some kind of dream? Here she was discussing which dress to wear to dinner, while the Gosloth was battling with the enemy far, far away. She dwelled on the Gosloth. On how the battle was probably over by now, on whether they prevailed. She hoped the ship and everyone on it were alive and well. We will comply with your request, Fee. Finally, a conclusion. I will bring the uniform shortly, said the older one. The laundry had been ready, and so the uniform was fetched for her. Now quickly, before your highness catches cold, she said, somewhat nonsensically, as she took her underwear. Naturally, the maids wouldn't allow Leifir to touch the clothes. They dressed her while she stood as still as a tree. Despite herself, Leifir ended up admiring them aloud. You're very skilled. We are simply accustomed to this, said the older servant. Accustomed to it? So you dress him every day? Yes, that's correct. Just as you must have servitors at your palace, your highness. We do have Bakeberia, chamberlains, but they don't wait on us to this extent. My, how droll. She simply would not believe her. When she'd finished putting on her clothes, or more accurately, getting her clothes put on for her, Selnai dutifully held a Dorith tray and inched closer. Accessories for your highness. A bright red crepe wrapper was spread out on top of the tray, and the whole array dazzled as the precious metals and jewels on display vied to shine brightest. Fee Lartner, please, choose whichever ones catch your eye, said the older servant. Leifir squinted. Yet again, what she needed most was missing. What happened to my circlet and my compuwatch? We were told they're barber. They're no such thing. I need them dearly. She knew they were just acting on orders, yet she couldn't quite quell her rage. Did these people think her circlet and wrist computer were just trinkets, just fashion statements to her? Her computer contained her default, electromagnetic wave crest, and the circlet was useless unless it was attuned to whoever equipped it. The centerpiece tiara was exquisite, yes, but it was no replacement for her military-issue circlet. We understand, Fee. As you desire. The older one sighed her resignation and nodded to Selnai. She scampered away and came back with her circlet and CompuWatch. As soon as she put the circlet back on, her sense of Frocross returned, much to her relief. Running about without one of her 6 senses made her feel all but helpless. She was guided from the lavatory area directly over to the BCF banquet hall. The floor was a pale ultramarine. Across the walls and ceiling, a multitude of stars twinkled against the dark blue backdrop. Here, too, stereoscopic fish were swimming in 3 dimensions. Leifir's eyes lingered on a giant scarlet one with yellow speckles cruising leisurely. He has awful taste, she thought. She headed toward a table in the center of the spacious chamber. As her dish fluttered, her Black Star Forces uniform could be seen intermittently peeking out from under the sleeves. The Baron of Febdash was already encamped at the table, which was comically small given the sheer size of the room. Beside him were female servants with demeaningly skimpy attire. No food had yet been laid out, and there were only 2 lamtish cups, carved out of brescier, amethyst, on the table. A single chair stood vacant. The Baron stood up and greeted the royal princess with his head drooped down. Leifir stayed on her feet right by the table and looked square at him. Where is Jinto? Jinto? The Baron raised his head. You must mean Lanyarluk Dryor Hater. My father is currently hosting him. Why isn't your father eating with us? He's not much of a people person, I'm afraid. If he's not a people person, then why is he playing host to a guest? Because misery loves company, I imagine, he said enigmatically. And what exactly does that mean? She grumbled. Please don't let it worry you. How could I not? My mission is to escort Jean Yarluk Dryor Hater to Svagov. The Baron raised an eyebrow at her. My Fee, don't tell me you sincerely believe I could wish harm upon Lani Yarluk Dryor? Frankly, I do sincerely believe you could, she asserted. That is regrettable, he said, though his face betrayed no such regret. In any case, please take a seat. I would like to clear up this misunderstanding as we dine. I hope it is a misunderstanding, Baron. A waitstaff had already pulled Leifir's chair out for her, and she took it. Seeing her seated, the Baron did likewise. Would you care for some spirits? He asked. I'm on duty. Give me something without skita, alcohol. As you wish. May I interest you in some Tyor Lashban orange juice? When Leifir nodded, the Baron snapped his fingers. A waitstaff whispered instructions into a mouth-equipped transceiver. The Baron spoke as he awaited his drink. So, Fee Lartner, I see you call that boy by name. May I ask you also to call me simply Clower? No, you may not, she said curtly. May I ask why? Because I don't want to, Baron. The Baron had no retort. He narrowed his eyes at her. A servant, who was, of course, female, came with a tray containing a rosgia, decanter, and some jars. The waitstaff picked up the jar of orange juice and took caution and care as she poured its contents into Leifir's cup. Then Reinma, apple cider, was poured into the Baron's cup. Leifir was thirsty from her hot bath, and so she drained her orange juice immediately. At once, the cup was refilled. A foreboding silence had befallen the table, but then the appetizers arrived. Pale petals were scattered across the black canvas that was the tray, along with various artistically arranged items of cuisine. Placing importance in aesthetic presentation was part and parcel of dining. By all means, please partake. Sure. Silver chopsticks in hand, Leifir brought something that looked like a leaf to her lips. The flavor of shellfish burst in her mouth. This is good. I am honored, Fee. I'm not complimenting you, she said, with no love lost. I'm complimenting the chef. I've gathered you're not one to use machines. You use people. How perceptive of you, Fee. I don't like machines very much, no. That aside, you seem rather angry, Your Highness. How perceptive of you, Baron. I am angry. Does my invitation displease you that much? Did you think it would please me? She sent an icy glare at the Baron as her chopsticks tore a piece off of a side of riopote, smoked thigh, patterned after a rabbit ear iris. Why wouldn't it? You still haven't cleared up that misunderstanding, if there even is one to clear up. This is about that lander boy, I take it. Jinto is an elf noble. Ah, yes, too right. It's not just about him. Did our vessel really need inspection? Is there really a fuel shortage? My doubts have only multiplied, Baron. Inspection? Oh, I was lying about that, he admitted breezily. There is more than enough fuel, and your vessel is not undergoing inspection of any sort. Leifir was hardly surprised. She knew her warm welcome was far from genuine from how she'd been pulled away from Jinto. Regardless, she didn't put down her chopsticks. She ate up the rest of the appetizers and pushed her tray to the side. Why did you lie? Because you would not have come to dinner otherwise, Fee Lartner. Of course not. We must make haste. That only confirms that it was right to lie. Is that so? Well, let me tell you, I don't like being deceived. I imagine not. Now that your little lies have been exposed, I can and will take my leave of this place. About that, Fee. The Baron drank the last of his apple cider. Could I have you postpone your departure for just a little while longer? If I say no, would you still be willing to send me off with no hard feelings? The waitstaff brought a small porcelain bowl. It was Oton Fifmar, sea turtle soup. Leifir removed the lid and savored its sweet fragrance. I'm afraid I wouldn't, the Baron replied. I must ensure you stay here, even if by force. Until an Empire ship arrives. Or, in other words, until the safety of my domain is secured. But there's no knowing when that will be. She tilted the bowl and slurped up all of the rich, hot broth. Indeed not. So you intend to keep us here until then? Yes. Leifir scowled, but confusion preceded ire. What in the heavens was the Baron scheming? I'm not plotting treason or a rebellion, if that's what you're thinking, said the Baron. No. Your deeds are not so upright as a rebellion, she sniped. It is truly a shame. The Baron hung his head, but his lips curled mockingly. My family line is a short one, and so upright deeds may ill suit me. Leifir paid the Baron no heed as she tucked into her broth. With a glance, Leifir noted that the Baron had barely touched his food, as his dish of appetizers hadn't been taken away. Leifir briefly suspected he may have poisoned her. No, don't be foolish, she thought. He would have poisoned the appetizers if he wanted to poison her at all. And he would have needed to somehow poison only her portions. There was no need to poison her. This was the Baron's estate. The broth was followed by Dersloof Boss, trout dumplings. The trout were genetically engineered to be tiny. Well, are you going to tell me? She needled him while she peeled away the fried brown dough concealing the fish within. About why you're keeping us. Is it a grudge? Don't be absurd, Fee Lartner. So long as I have you here, I intend to treat you with nothing but the utmost hospitality. Why would I seek to cause you harm? That's precious. I'm not so sure you fully grasp the consequences of your actions. I assure you I do. All I want is to protect this domain. How does keeping us here protect your domain? The Svogov Marquisate is a large nation. The united humankind must know its location. My barony, on the other hand, is young and of minuscule size. There's an extremely large possibility they're not aware it exists. A regular ferry stops by only twice a month. And I would like for them to remain ignorant of the Feb-barony. But what if they were to observe a ship emerging from the Feb-gate? Presumably, they would glean that there's been a thief their information network failed to catch wind of. They might even destroy this microscopic domain in a fit of pique. But we passed through the Feb-gate to get here. How do you know they haven't already spotted us? They may have. But one chance is already one too many. I cannot afford to give the enemy a second. That seems rational enough. I'm glad you agree. The Baron nodded animatedly. That is why, Fee Lartner, reluctant though I am, I must insist you prolong your sojourn at this mansion until I can be sure the enemy has been swept from our vicinity. If the enemy fleet is repelled, then you won't be kept waiting for too terribly long. And if it isn't repelled, I suppose you will have to wait until the Empire recovers this land. Can we survive here for that long? My starfief possesses a Glek, hydroponic plantation, and a Bossov, cultivation ranch. There will be no shortage of food. However, resources are limited, so our chefs may not be resourceful enough at times to prevent some level of dissatisfaction. And what if the Empire never recovers it? We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. The lord of this little domain has enough to deal with already. I think it'd behoove you to spare your future some thought. Leifir was intent on the task of plucking the dough and the fish even as she spoke. Whatever might you mean? You're obstructing the passage of a connecting vessel that's on a military mission. The fief you work to protect might be ousted from the Empire. I think not. I did everything out of a passion for my domain. My actions will be condoned by the Skazlotsasat, Supreme Court of the Empire. At the very worst, they will levy a fine. Even if the Svagov Marquisate comes under attack before they could be forewarned thanks to that passion of yours? Is the Supreme Court that magnanimous? I'm sure that's of no concern. The greater Svagov area is highly trafficked. Someone will alert them to the enemy's approach, and it need not be you, Fee. As such, what fault, pray tell, can anyone find in my deeds? They will believe the testimony of those who will attest that I graciously accommodated you. It shall be sworn on the name of Avriel. Do not speak that name, snapped Leifir. You'd never understand my family's codes of honor. Yes, quite. The Baron bowed with superficial politeness. Do forgive me, Fee. Leifir ignored him. A waitstaff quickly whisked away the half-eaten dumplings she'd put aside for disposal. Enough about me. What's become of Jinto? Yarluk Dryor Hater is with my faith. Best not talk nonsense, Baron. I believe I told you I don't enjoy being deceived. I understand. The Baron shrugged. Due to our young friends lacking the qualification to receive the hospitality owed to a real noble, he has been dealt with in a way befitting a lander like himself. How many times must I repeat myself? Jinto is a noble, said Leifir. You also seem to be laboring under a unique view of what being an imperial citizen entails. I've never seen imperial citizens as abject and servile as your servants. It's as painful to witness as a cat forced to do acrobatics. Half the reason she said that was so the ladies in waiting could overhear. Not even Her Majesty the Empress herself can meddle in the affairs of a lord and his servants. Let alone you, Filartner. That is true, but it does spark my interest in what you think is a fitting way to deal with a lander. Please, it is nothing to fret over, Filartner, he stonewalled her. The next course was boiled pumpkin stuffed with meat and vegetables. Leifir's eyes were glued on her pumpkin and its cinnabar scallish serving table, but she continued addressing him. Listen to me, Baron. You have a domain to protect, and I have a Skoikoth mission to carry out. That mission is to take Jinto to Svagov safely. If anything happens to him, then you can forget all about the Supreme Court, because you'll have me to answer to. I'm afraid I can't comprehend your fixation on that lander. The Baron shook his head with exasperation. Why do you obsess over him so? Leifir shot him a hateful stare. If you've served in the military, then you must know that the mission is sacred. But that's not all. This is also my first mission. If it were to serve my mission, I would see your precious little domain get burnt to cinders. That won't come to pass, said the Baron unfazed. But that cool-headed veneer was all too transparent. Leifir took 2 or 3 bites of the pumpkin, savored it, and stood up. Fee, this is a palate cleanser. There is more food to come, said the waitstaff, dismayed. Give the chef my thanks and my apologies. I've had my fill. Please tell her it was sublime. The Baron clapped. Guide Filartner to her bedchambers. 2 servants who had apparently been waiting nearby slipped out. They were, of course, female. He indicated Leifir. Her Highness is tired. Make sure she reposes right away. You 2 wait by her side until she falls asleep. So he wasn't going to let her get close to the vessel no matter what. I already know the answer, Baron, but do you have any men among your servants? No. I can't stand the thought of landermen beside me. Leifir's lips curled. Those who loathed the off typically believed that they never smiled when they ought to, and did smile at the most flabbergasting times. This was, however, a wild misconception. The off smiled during times of joy, laughed during times of mirth. But the reason this misconception came to be was that the elf also smiled when face to face with the object of their hatred. It was too intense to merely call a derisive smile. It was more akin to the brilliant blossoming of a poison flower. It was a grin of disdain intertwined with provocation, a broad beam that could not be mistaken for an expression of affection. Their enemies detested it, calling it the smile of the elf. Now I have yet another reason to despise you, she said, as her smile widened.